Well guys, it's that time of year where the incubator is now empty. We had a really awesome year with our ball python breeding program over here. You know, every year we seem to get at least one surprise. Pandora back here, who you've met in other videos, huge surprise. This year, well, our surprise really wasn't all that great. I'm Dāv Kaufman, and these are my reptile adventures.
At Zilla, we are dedicated to the innovation of caging, lighting, and equipment solutions that provide proper husbandry for your pet's long and happy life. To see our entire catalog, visit zillarules.com.
So while I was down in Daytona for the Daytona National Reptile Breeders Expo, our last clutch of ball pythons hatched here in the incubator behind me, but you know, I got a call from my caretaker who said that one of the snakes just looked a little, and I'm just going to have to see it when I get home. So I had them take some footage on their cell phone and send it to me so I could see what they were talking about. And you can see right away what the problem is. This snake wasn't born with sunken eyes. This snake was actually born with no eyeballs. And you can see where the eyeball should be, there's just a scale. So the eyes never developed in the egg. But the thing that I was most concerned about when I first saw this was, can the snake move on its own? Is it flicking its tongue? Is it able to negotiate its surroundings and actually have a chance at survival without those eyes? But you can see that even though this snake doesn't have eyes, it doesn't seem to really adversely affect him. He's still moving around, still checking out his surroundings. He's able to negotiate his way around the pile of all of his siblings. And so when I first saw this, I was thinking, okay, so we have our work cut out for us with taking care of this snake, but any snake that is hatched over here, I'm going to give it the best possible chance for a long, happy life, regardless if I'm going to sell them or not. But you can see here that there was an issue with the egg to begin with. And you can see that half of it just looks like it didn't develop. It has that hard, callous side to it, which explains why this snake is so much smaller than its siblings. So let's talk about snake eyes for a minute here. Are snake eyes really necessary for the snake to function normally? Well, a study came out a while ago that showed that snakes that hunt during the day have lenses in their eyes that block ultraviolet light, allowing them to see clearly in bright conditions. And snakes that hunt at night have the opposite. They have lenses that allow more UV light in, helping them to see better in the dark. So snake eyes are a lot more complex than we originally believed, but snakes also have two other things that help them negotiate their environment around them. And in pythons, that's heat-seeking pits around the jawline, and it's also the tongue, which basically smells the air. So this little guy does in fact have a chance at a long, happy life without eyes, because those heat-seeking pits will enable it to pinpoint where a rodent is. Now this little snake is going to have to use both its pits and its tongue to basically see its environment around him. So again, even though the snake was born without eyes, he still has a chance. So I'm going to be caring for this snake for the rest of its life to ensure that it does have the longest, happiest life that I can give him. Alright, so I've got all of little Blindy's siblings set up in this baby box here. We've got a really nice GHI Mojave Pied here. We've got a nice GHI Pied, a nice inchy GHI Mojave Het Pied, another nice GHI Pied right here, another really nice Mojave Inchy GHI Het Pied, and finally another Mojave GHI Pied. So these are all of that blind python's siblings. What worries me is look at the size of Blindy here. He is a fraction of the normal size of a healthy baby ball python. And he is so super thin. So we have really, come here buddy. So we have really got to get a meal into this snake. And so what I do with my ball pythons is I always separate them into these larger deli cups. And so I'm just going to put him in there. Now, that mouse might be just a touch on the big side, but we're going to see what he does here. And if it is too big and he's not going to eat it, then I've got some smaller ones that I'm going to offer him. But, you know, again, he's got his heat pits, he's got his tongue, he really doesn't need those eyes. So he should be able to smell it with his tongue, but his heat pits will pick up the mouse's heat signature and tell him exactly where this mouse is. Ooh, there now his heat pits just picked it up and told him where it was. Come on, buddy. Alright, so getting this little baby blind snake to eat did not go well on its first attempt, which is fine, it's normal. Sometimes baby ball pythons just need a little extra time. The thing that worries me is that this snake is so thin and so small that if it was a normal ball python, I wouldn't be freaking out, but that he is so small, I really am kind of freaking out. So I'm going to wait a couple of days, I'm going to try it again, and if it doesn't work on its own the second time around, then I'm going to have to get a little bit more assertive. With other ball python babies, you know, there's always one in that clutch that I've always had to, like, teach how to eat. And that is something that I may need to do with this guy. Alright guys, so it is a couple of days later. This snake is just not getting how to eat on her own. And that doesn't mean that she's blind, she can't see the mouse. This is the reason why. You know, a lot of baby ball pythons, they need to learn that the mouse is food. Look at this little snake. She is just losing weight. She is super small. It's come to the point now where I have to teach her how to eat. Not force feed her, but assist feed. And the difference between assist feed and force feed is kind of an aggressive move where you are cramming food down her throat in order to save its life. Assist feeding is where you're basically teaching the snake how to eat. And that's what we're going to do today. But you can see that she desperately needs a meal in her. But she's doing good. She has those tongue flicks going. She's active. She just needs her first meal so that she doesn't lose any more weight. And if she loses any more weight than this, then we're getting beyond that point where assist feeding is going to be beneficial, and we've got to move into that aggressive force feeding. And what I try to do with my snakes is never get to the point to where you have to force feed. Force feeding is a last resort with snakes. So what we're going to do is we're going to try a maneuver called assist feeding, and I'll teach you exactly how to do it here. Alright, so the snake is going to obviously protest this, but what you do is you grab them right behind the head there. You're applying no pressure whatsoever, you're just holding the head. And then let her body coil in the rest of your hand. And then once you have her body in the rest of your hand and her head secure, again, no pressure. So you take a rodent of appropriate size, and then you take the nose of the rodent and gently get her to open her mouth, and she's going to resist, but you use that to open the mouth, and then you just push the mouse head in until it's up to about its ears, just so much that you're not shoving it down her throat, but you're placing it deep enough in her mouth that she's not going to spit it up. And then once you have that done, you grab her by the tail and you just hold her up like this. And now what she's going to do is she's going to try to right herself, and while she's trying to right herself, she's going to move her head back and forth, and hopefully she's going to start eating that on her own. And it might take a while, it might take several minutes that you just have to stand here and hold this snake like this until she gets that, hey, there's something in my mouth that, well, probably tastes pretty good, and, well, I think I need to eat this. And if she's not doing anything, give her a little twist like this, just very gently, just to give her some motion so that she doesn't just sit there with it dangling in her mouth and she actually starts to chew it and swallow. Now you can see she's got it down her throat a little bit more. She's coiling with it, which is a really good sign. You know, if you're wondering why I'm using a fuzzy on a snake this small instead of a pinky, which would probably be easier for her to swallow, well, the answer is that pinkies are like 95% fat, whereas a fuzzy has more muscle growth and they're more protein. So I don't want to just give her fat, I want her to have that protein. Alright, so that method of assist feeding worked. She's got that fuzzy in her belly, and I'm just going to let her sit here and relax for a little bit, and then I'm going to put her back in her baby tub so that she can sit on that heat and digest this mouse. I feel so relieved that we finally got a meal in this little snake. And again, that method of assist feeding where you just put the mouse in their mouth and hold them by the tail and get them to start eating on their own, man, that is such an effective way of assist feeding baby ball pythons. Feeding her is one thing, but getting her to find water in this dish right here, that could prove problematic. So I took this rock, which is kind of cool, it's got a little cut out of it, and I put it right next to the water dish so that when she is crawling around, she will crawl up on the rock and then find the water, but I can't guarantee that she's going to do that on her own. So every few days I have to pick her up and literally show her where the water is. So sometimes she'll take a drink, sometimes she's just not thirsty, but I just can't be convinced that she's going to be able to find that water on her own. So every 3 days, maybe for the rest of her life, I'm going to have to pick her up and physically show her where the water dish is. But yeah, getting her to eat is one thing. Getting her to find water is going to be a totally different story. So guys, it's October 1st today. Blindy is 6 weeks old, and I wish I had a better update for you guys. You know, she hasn't eaten on her own once. I have had to do that assist feed method with her every single week, and she is at least keeping those rodents down. She's not regurgitating them, which is really good. So her system is working. We just can't get her to find the mouse on her own and, you know, eat like every other snake. So it's really making me concerned, because as she gets older, I will not be able to do that assist feed with her, well, as easily as I can when she's a baby. But you know, out of the 75 or so baby ball pythons that we've hatched over here, the rest of them are doing really well. So as you can see, this Enchi Orange Dream Pied clutch is doing just fine. They're big, they're robust, they're eating. All of these are going to be available next weekend at Tinley. And this clutch of Super Pastel Enchi Pieds is doing great. These were born a couple of days after Blindy was. These guys are already on rats. They are a really healthy size for baby ball pythons that are about 5 weeks old, have had a couple of meals, are already on rat pups. These will also be available next weekend at Tinley. And all of her siblings in this GHI Enchi Mojave Pied clutch are doing great. They're eating rat pups. They're looking great. They're looking plump. These guys are also going to be available next weekend at Tinley. But the thing that concerns me is, look at how thin and frail she is compared to her clutch mates. That is really concerning me. She is so small, and she is just simply not putting on any weight, even though she's eating every week by assist feeding. But I'm not going to give up on her, and so Blindy, you don't give up on me either. You know, nobody really shows off when something like this happens, and you just, you know, despite how much care and love you give this animal, you just watch them kind of go downhill, and there's you know, you just watch them go downhill despite the care and the love that you're giving them. And I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep assist feeding. I'm going to every 3 days make sure that she's well hydrated. I'm just not going to give up on this snake. You know, I guess all my life I've just kind of had a soft spot for the runt, the underdogs out there. And when I see a snake like this, you know, my initial instinct is to care for it and to, you know, do everything that I can to make sure that, well, despite the odds, that this snake is going to have a chance. So anyway, I'm going to continue to work with the snake as best I can. I'm going to put updates on the community tab on my channel here. I will also put updates on my Instagram page. But, you know, next week is the greatest reptile expo in the world, the Tinley Park NARBC. I hope to see all of you guys next week in Illinois for the Tinley Park NARBC Reptile Expo. It really is the best expo in the world. So anyway, guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button when you do hit that bell so you never miss an upload. And until the next reptile adventure, love the planet, feed your reptile obsession, and rattle on.